Bay Area News Group, and welcome to our broadcast looking back at a very special season for the Golden State Warriors and a look ahead to something that I haven't been able to say for 40 years, to their NBA Finals showdown, and this will be against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Joining us today is Robert Morales, who covers the Los Angeles Clippers for the Long Beach Press-Telegram and neighboring publications in Southern California. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Let's talk about the Warriors and how this season kind of came together here. We'll go back to the start of the season. I mean, they have a new coach. The organization seems to be in a little transition going. What did you expect from the Warriors from the outset?
Well, Steve, I don't think I quite expected, what we have seen. Now, I knew they were going to be good because, they took the Clippers to 7 games last year in the first round, and they did so without Andrew Bogut. So, and that's something that a lot of people didn't talk about last season, was the fact that Bogut didn't play. So they could that would equate to, what they did during the regular season, and of course here they are now in the NBA Finals. Just an electric team. I can tell you, just as a fan of the game, how much I have enjoyed watching them.
Now you've got some inside, like with the Clippers. What were Clippers players saying about the Warriors? Maybe even early in the season and as the season went on.
Well, if you remember that November 5th game, Steve, and I did go on the road to cover that game, and Warriors got up big by the end of 3 quarters, and of course they won by 17. Certainly not indicative of what that game was really about. But I got to tell you, the one thing about Clippers players is they're not haters. And after that game, they couldn't say enough about Golden State and how they played and how they just took it right to them. And I never really heard anything but praise from the Clippers toward the Warriors all season. And I think one of the biggest things is this is a team with a killer instinct, man. They go after you, and they can run up a score on you. They can erase a deficit as quickly as anybody.
But typically you don't see a first-year coach come in and have a team take off so fast like this. I mean, wasn't that kind of a surprise for you?
Well, yeah, and like I said, if you think, what did they win, 65 games during the regular season? I don't think anybody could have expected that. And yes, I got to tell you something. I liked Mark Jackson. Whatever issues that led to his being released, I don't really care about that. I liked Mark Jackson. Personally, having gone to the playoffs last year and been at Golden State for that first round, I got the impression that the players liked him too. So with that said, you always wonder if a coach, an outgoing coach, has been liked by the players. If that's true, because there's always a lot of diplomacy played, of course, then you bring in a new guy, and if there's some players who think, well, man, Mark Jackson should have never been let go, how are they going to play for the new guy? Well, I was very impressed with Steve Kerr, the way he handled himself back in November, that November 5th game that I was at. He really seemed to have the beat of his team's heart already 5 or 6 games into the season, and the players really seemed to respond to him. So, yeah, that surprised me. I mean, come on, 65 wins for a first-year coach. Nobody really expects that. But I got to tell you, I'm really impressed with Steve Kerr. The mannerisms have so much to do. I think, when you look up to your coach and you see how cool he is, and he's not the guy who's wigging out all the time, that really, can go filter down to the players.
Well, I'm just wondering because, Mark Jackson was a former player as well. So, but what did Steve do? What did he do, like maybe on the floor or maybe in practices, maybe motivation? I mean, Mark Jackson's a motivating kind of guy too. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the difference here.
Well, I'm sure that I can give you, the perfect answer on that, being that I didn't really go to any Warriors practices this year. I think I went to the shoot around on November 5th, and when they're down here, I'm more interested in going to the Clippers shoot arounds. I just think, again, there's a personality trait that Steve Kerr has that I think has a big deal, a big part of this, and the fact that he seems to be kind of unflappable out there. I really think that the players feel that. If you have a coach that seems like he's worried on the sidelines all the time, I think that hurts the team. And I wish I could give you more insight as to, what went on during the season. But pretty much what I can offer you is just what I've seen, on TV, what I've seen in person the couple of times that they were down at Staples Center. And I just got the feeling that this is a guy with a very strong personality, kind of a player's coach, if you will. And I think today's player really responds to that.
Well, he certainly walked in with some pretty decent players to his disposal. One, Stephon Curry. I guess you can consider him the real deal, right? Well, tell me about what you've seen from Curry, kind of player, what he brings to the Warriors.
He brings a lot to the Warriors, and first of all, I think that everybody loves the kid. And again, he's just, man, I don't remember the last time I saw somebody who was that deadly from three-point range with that super quick release, and the guy who can give you the defensive, the opposing players, those ankle-breaking moves. And again, there's he's just got all the tangibles and the intangibles. To me, he's a complete player, and again, a guy that he doesn't seem to have any fear out there on the court. If his team is down by 15 points, if Stephen Curry has started 0 for 5, not that he's done that many times, but he has had slow starts. I mean, it's an 82-game season. It's not surprising to see him come back and make 4 or 5 in a row, and some of the longest, toughest three-point shots, and you're shaking your head. You're like, man, how can anybody be that good? I love Stephen Curry, man.
So he also we see his three-point shooting, and we're in all that, but he does so much more. He doesn't necessarily need to be hot outside, I think, to make a difference with the team. I mean, he's playing very well on defense, and he can run the floor with the best of them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, running the floor, as you just said, he could do that with the best of them. And he just, the things that he does, he's a beautiful passer, and the floaters that he throws up there. And, I don't like floaters. I think it's a low percentage shot. But when Stephen Curry throws one up, I have a feeling it's going to go in. He's not afraid to do anything out there. He is a real general out there, a real floor leader. And I think, he's got the respect of all his teammates. I don't really see. They say Stephen Curry isn't as strong with on-ball defense. Well, geez, so he's got one little thing that he's not great at. Big deal. I'll take that any day of the week.
So it sounds like to me, you agree that he is the MVP of the league?
Oh, absolutely. Look, LeBron James is a terrific player. We all know that, but I just think that if you look at what Stephen Curry, don't forget, we're talking about the regular season here. What Stephen Curry did during the regular season in leading this team, I think he absolutely deserved the MVP honor. I have no doubt about that whatsoever.
Well, Warrior fans took a nice breath of sigh of relief yesterday when Klay Thompson was cleared to play. That was pretty important for the Warriors, don't you think?
Well, sure, because he's the other half of the so-called Splash Brothers, and Klay is another guy. The whole thing about Warriors is, and I know I've already said it once or twice on this broadcast, but that's an unflappable team, really through and through. Klay Thompson is another guy. I've been at games where he has started, because I helped out in the Lakers this season too. So I saw Golden State at least once when they played the Lakers at Staples Center. And the one thing, Clay is another guy. He can get off to a slow start. You know, like, wow, this guy's having a bad game. Next thing you know, he hits four in a row, from 25 feet. And again, you're just like, wow, And so Clay is a very important part of this team, as is Kyrie Irving for the Cavaliers. If he's not 100% healthy, that's going to hurt the Cavaliers.
Well, let's keep going on the Warriors just a little bit. Two of my favorite players in the Warriors, I have to say that. Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes. Maybe talk about them a little bit. I mean, they bring that energy to the team. They give them that extra push, and just, I think you got two X factors on this team. Talk about them a little bit.
Well, I like both players. I love Draymond Green. He's a really tough defender. I think we all know that goes without saying. And I'm kind of hopeful. I was going to say he's a little bit, underweight compared to LeBron James, but then again, what small forward isn't? So LeBron James is a beast. So I really am hopeful. I've heard that Steve Kerr might run 2 or 3 guys at LeBron James, but I don't know if I'd have a problem with seeing what Draymond Green himself can do on LeBron James, and then go from there. Harrison Barnes is another guy. This is a guy that you don't really hear. He's not a star player. He's probably never going to be a superstar player, but he's another guy that just goes out there and plays. And again, as the team theme goes, he plays without fear. And he attacks and makes clutch shots. Just another guy that I love on the Warriors. But, man, Draymond Green, I'm a big Draymond Green fan. That dude is tough. I love a guy who can not only be a good offensive player, but be just an awesome defensive player.
Well, clearly, Barnes was a huge factor in the clinching game against Houston, especially after Thompson got hurt. I think he can be probably the factor for the Warriors in this series, don't you?
Well, no, I do. He's that guy, because you're expecting Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, for that matter, to get their points. But Harrison Barnes, Harrison Barnes can play defense too. And although I don't expect him, if they're going to go one-on-one, I still expect it to be Draymond Green on LeBron. But he can be that X factor, because you always have those guys that you expect to do well, and they're going to give you most of the points. Then you have that X factor, as you say, and Harrison Barnes can be that guy. He's certainly not going to be afraid to go out there and try and be that guy.
Now, I think a huge key, though, for the Warriors this season was the health of Andrew Bogut. Keeping him healthy was really big, because while we have all these elements happening for the Warriors, the inside, the down low game was probably the biggest factor for them this season. Talk about how important keeping him on the floor was during the season and the playoffs.
Well, absolutely, and Steve, as I mentioned earlier, I to this day, you probably wouldn't get any of the Clippers to believe it or to admit it, but to this day, I believe if Bogut had been around in the first round of the playoffs last season, they beat the Clippers in that first round, and and that's it for the Clippers. That's a big deal, to have your starting big man out for an entire series, and man, that is really important. And even though he doesn't, he's not a big scorer, he's a terrific rebounder, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's averaged close to 2 blocks during the playoffs, and that's a big deal too. So absolutely, Steve, keeping him healthy and keeping him on the floor is a really big deal for Golden State.
But also another big thing was the development of the Warriors bench, because we've talked a little bit about the starters, but there's so much energy out there. You need a good bench. to keep it going here. Anybody off the bench that really impressed you this for the Warriors?
Well, I like Iguodala, um, and now Maurice Spikes is another guy who did well against the Clippers during the regular season, and he's a guy. He's one of those big guys who can hit the outside jumper as well. Iguodala did a really good job on James Harden, if I'm not mistaken, in the most recent series. So yeah, I like the bench. I just like that whole team, and certainly the deeper you go, the better. People always want to say in the playoffs, you only go 7 or 8 deep anyway. Well, those 2 or 3 guys that you're bringing off, they still have to be very good. So again, like everything about them.
Also, what helps a lot is a very noisy home court, and the Warriors definitely have that in their favor. I guess how many trips did you make to Oracle this season?
Only the one, but I made 2 last season, and so I've been there 3 times, and this was only my second year covering the Clippers, and I got to tell you, it's very impressed with that arena. Terrific fans. Certainly the loudest arena I've been in. I was in AT&T Center this year for the playoffs, and also in Houston for the playoffs, and both had great crowds. Don't get me wrong, but Oracle Arena is a special place, and I love those fans. They are really passionate about their teams. I know some coaches have complained that it's actually too loud, and they can't hear themselves think, or the players can't hear the signals or the instructions being shouted out on the court. Hey, that's what the Golden State Warriors fans or any fans are supposed to be trying to do. We see it in football all the time, right? Where guys can't hear the signals of quarterback because the opposing crowd is too loud. I love the Golden State crowd, and they're loud and fanatical, but not necessarily vicious. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes every crowd has a few guys that get out of hand, but it's just a great crowd, deafening, really.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk about who the Warriors are going to play. We've taken a lot of time on them, but the Cavaliers, they marched through the East playoffs pretty well, despite the injuries to Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. Love is gone, and Irving's going to be playing probably pretty injured, is the way it looks like. But I guess this run says something about LeBron James, how great he is.
It does. I mean, if you look at the statistics, you see that LeBron James, the only category I think he's not leading his team in the playoffs is block shots. Everything else he's leading in now. When Kyrie Irving didn't play, Kyrie Irving only played 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals because of his knee. And in those 2 games, and I think LeBron had 13 and 11 assists in those 2 games, so he became the point forward. They don't really even have another point guard. They have J.R. Smith and they have Shumpert, but those guys are really shooting guards, so they didn't even try to make those 2 guys point guards. They just put it all on LeBron. But here's the thing. So obviously they can win without Kyrie Irving, but can they beat Golden State? I mean, they did that against Atlanta, which had a terrific regular season, but Atlanta is not Golden State. So what I think is as great as LeBron is, if Kyrie Irving goes out there and he's only 80% and he can't play the normal minutes he can, that's going to make Cleveland's task, as they're the underdogs already of winning this series, that much more difficult. And but there is one thing that I'll throw in there before you ask me about it, if I may, is the one thing that has maybe impressed me as much as what LeBron has done in the playoffs so far is what they did to Atlanta from 3-point range, and I mean as defending Atlanta's 3-point shot. Golden State led the league this year in three-point shooting at 39.8%. Atlanta was second at 38%. In those 4 games against Cleveland, Cleveland held the Hawks to 24.7% shooting from beyond the arc. Now, if Cleveland can somehow find a way to slow down Golden State's three-point game with great rotating defense and so on, that is Cleveland's chance to win this series. But if they can't do that, to me, they don't have much of a chance.
Well, yeah, because that led me to my next question was because we've done so much praising for the Warriors. I mean, if the Cavaliers do have a chance, and it looks like they do on defense. Let's say that does happen, though. The Warriors struggle from outside. Does that mean game over for the Warriors?
Oh, I wouldn't say that, Steve, because I am so impressed with Golden State. Let's remember one thing. They lost 2 games in a row to Memphis, and this is where I get back to the unflappable nature of this team. They lost 2 games to Memphis, and one was at Oracle Arena. So suddenly they're down 2-1 in that series, and you're thinking, well, okay, is that it? I mean, did the Warriors just fizzle out? And suddenly they come back, and we all know what happened. They win that series, and here we are. After they get past Houston, I don't necessarily think it's game over for the Warriors, but I got to tell you, if an early tone is set like that, even if somehow Cleveland finds a way to win one of the first 2 games at Golden State, and it's because they're holding them down from three-point land, then suddenly Golden State's task becomes a little scary, for them and for their fans. But do I think that's going to happen, Steve? No, I don't. I think Golden State is just too good, and I don't think I don't think Cleveland is gonna be able to do to Golden State in that three-point range what it did to Atlanta. I'm not thinking that at all.
Well, LeBron James seems to be putting a lot of eggs into the game 1 basket, shall we say? And how important is game 1 in this series, you think?
Well, it's certain. I believe it's more important to Golden State for obvious reasons. They want to defend the home court, and I think that if somehow Cleveland was to be able to steal game 1, then suddenly I would be interested to see what the odds in Las Vegas suddenly say as far as not for the next game but for the entire series. Personally, I expect Golden State to come out and win that first game. I expect Golden State to come out and win that first game by double digits. I think they're a 6-point favorite, if I'm not mistaken. But it is an important game, no question. If Cleveland steals that first game, then suddenly I think you're going to see a change in the odds, but I still don't think that would be for Golden State. I'm so impressed with the Warriors. I just don't think that they get that shook up, and I think it's because they have the players who have a lot of heart. I mean, you go right on down the line and talk about the courage of this team. And then they've got Steve Kerr, who I think shares that type of personality with his players.
I guess on defense, though, for the Warriors, do they basically just give LeBron James whatever he wants and then worry about everybody else?
And that's the thing. It's a funny thing, too, because now I haven't been to any of the finals, so I don't really know everything that's been said by the players and coaches and whatnot. But that's what I've been sitting here thinking, before we went on to this broadcast, Steve, is Steve Kerr going to throw 2 or 3 guys? I saw one prognosticator wondering if they're just going to throw 3 guys, Barnes and Draymond Green and somebody else. I don't remember who the other guy was that was mentioned at LeBron, and then take their chances that the other guys who are left open don't go off. I just think that Harrison Barnes would get pushed around too much. So, I'm not sure what they're going to, and it doesn't even matter what Steve Kerr might be saying right now. That doesn't mean that that's what he's going to do, because he wouldn't be the first coach that would say he's going to try one thing and then turn around and do the opposite, just, for the head games and all that. So I'm just not sure. Certainly, I'm not a coach. I'm not sure what I would do. But to me, that's a big question. What is Steve Kerr going to try and do defensively on LeBron James right off the bat? And then, of course, if it doesn't work, he'll adjust.
Okay, well, I guess that comes down to the big question. You've already indicated, I think, that you believe the Warriors probably will win this series. Tell me what you're looking for in this series, and how many games does it go?
Well, I really what I think is going to happen is I really think that for LeBron James, I kind of expect the Warriors are so good that LeBron James is going to have a couple of bad games here. He's going to have a couple of games where he doesn't shoot well, and I think the Warriors are just going to be the Warriors. I don't think there's going to be a sweep here, Steve, but I don't think it's going to go 7 games either. It wouldn't shock me to see the Warriors win in 5, but what my pick is Golden State in 6. I definitely think the Warriors are going to be able to win a game at Cleveland. I don't think Cleveland's going to be able to win one here, at Oracle Arena. But I'm just going to say Golden State in 6, but it wouldn't shock me if it was Golden State in 5.
Well, it sounds like that would be great news up here in the Bay Area, and really, the Warriors, they've been a great team from the get-go. Even when they've lost a couple of games in a row, they're able to bounce back and just reel off another streak. They overcame Memphis when Memphis tied the series 2-2. So I agree. I think the Warriors have just, they've looked very impressive from the start to where we're at now, and it looks like the icing on the cake is coming up.
Yeah, I do think it is, Steve, and I think, I grew up as a Lakers fan, and I know that's going to tick off a lot of Warriors fans and all that, but I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite teams, just as a fan, to watch. There were times when the Clippers weren't playing a game, and I was sitting at home, and Golden State was playing somewhere on TNT, and if I saw that on the channel guide, I'd go to that game just because I loved watching them play. This is one of my favorite teams to watch in years. And if I'm a Golden State fan, man, I'm just totally stoked about what this team has become.
Well, is it one more thing? Is it too early to talk? Maybe kind of a little dynasty going here. Is there a possibility?
No, I don't think it's too early for that, Steve. Because look, I mean, the best players on this team, I mean, they're all young guys. They don't have. I'm not sure how old Bogut is, off the top of my head, but I know all the other guys are under 30. And no, I don't think it's too early. Now, of course, they still have to win one before we can really say that. But with this core of players, would it shock me to see the Warriors win, 3 of the next 5, like the San Francisco Giants have in baseball? That wouldn't shock me a bit.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. That's Robert Morales, beat writer for the Clippers, beat writer for the Long Beach Press-Telegram. I appreciate it, Robert. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Good luck over there.
All right. Thank you very much, and that's our broadcast for today.